I'm fine with just starting whenever you want to start, unless you wanted to wait.
I can
Well,
start. I mean, as we go in, more people will probably pour in, and we got some people waiting as it is. So, would you like to begin in any opening statement, or would you like me to go ahead and just like lay out the fundamentals of my argument?
I mean, let's see. Hold on, because I don't want you to do this thing where you run away from what your original argument is. But um, you know what? You can go first. Why not? Let's see if you go first, and if you go first, and it ends up being you running away from what your original argument was, I'll call it out. So go ahead, do whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, fundamentally, sociology to me, it isn't a science at all. It's a political tool. I mean, sociology markets itself as an empirical science, but in practice, often, you know, operates as a legitimating apparatus. It's a language system that converts contested political preferences into findings, then roots those findings into institutions that govern people's lives. I'm going to argue that the function is political and that the harm comes from these three design features working together because there's multiple components to this. First, the discipline is structurally permissive of conclusions chosen in advance. When a field treats moral urgency as public impact as a central mission, the scientific norm of disinterestedness gets replaced by advocacy. Research questions are framed to affirm preferred diagnosis, and disagreement is reclassified as ignorance or pathology rather than a rival hypothesis. This is not a bug, it's a core operating logic of it. The second piece would be there's an incentive system that selects, ideological conformity that's, error correction, a strong political monoculture, supported by data, sustained by self-selection, socialization, and professional penalties for dissent. So if anyone dissents, you're cannibalized out. Uh, Means the most normal scientific checks, right? Adversarial peer review, serious engagement with alternative explanations, replication culture, weaken in a monoculture, which gets rewarded by alignment and rhetorical usefulness. Wordplay. Third, it's methodological culture often makes motivated reasoning hard to detect and easy to publish. Low transparency norms, weak replication habits, and limited use of designs to support credible and casual inference, creating a pipeline where narratives can masquerade as measurement and correlation can masquerade as explanation while still carrying the authority of science. Put together, sociology becomes a malicious tool in effect. It supplies the moral vocabulary, the expert credential, and the pseudo quantitative sheen that neoliberal managerial systems, universities, HR bureaucracies, NGOs, regulatory agencies use to justify intervention, surveillance biometrics, and social control while claiming neutrality. It merely it doesn't merely describe society, it manufactures the categories that policy and institutions use to discipline it in effect.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's just the opening statement.
Okay. Can you repeat what you said about the methodological culture of sociology? What was that part?
Certainly. It makes motivated reasoning hard to detect and easy to publish, and has low transparency norms and weak replication habits, and limited use of designs that support credible, casual inference, creating a pipeline where narratives can masquerade as measurement and correlation can masquerade as explanation while still carrying the authority of science. Would you like me to go into some data points in that to support it?
Not yet. I just wanted to make sure I was hearing that correctly.
No
Okay.
problem.
I'm not really gonna do an opening statement. I guess I think I'm just gonna point out where I think you're running away from your original argument. First off, I will do an opening statement. My opening statement is that humans are social creatures who spend a lot of time thinking about our relationships, that being relationships with other people and relationships with systems. After all, As the Joker meme has it, we live in a society, bottom text. The sociologist is the person who studies that sort of thing. Pretty much all of your time in your life will be spent interacting with people, interacting with systems, whatever. And to think in a sociological way is to understand that we don't exist in isolation, and everything we do and everything that happens to us is all influenced by the history of our civilization, the culture that we are a part of, our race, gender, social class, etc. And sociological understanding doesn't mean that you should admit defeat or be a doomer or be a loser, nor does it mean that you are absolved of any personal responsibility or agency. You have to consider both. And when you understand the intersection of your personal biography and the history of the society that you are a part of, that is what it means to think in a sociological way. None of this is meant to be like paralyzing or turn you to inaction. If you're a worker, you can, be a part of a union. If you're a citizen, you can protest or vote for a cause that you believe in. It's a reciprocal process where the individual influences social structures, and social structures in turn influence the individual. And it is a rotating influence. To think as a sociologist is to make the familiar unfamiliar. And what that means is things that you take for granted. Why is it that when you're in school, you raise your hand, but when you're at the dinner table, talking with your family, you don't have the desire to raise your hand? Why is that? That's something that the normal person would take for granted. The sociological mind would look at that and try to ask why and answer why. Okay, so that's my opening statement. But I do want to get into some things that I think you're kind of running away from. So the original claims that you made, and this is word for word, that I argued against when we were in our original debate was, 1, sociology blatantly demonizes white Americans. 2, it victimizes minorities. 3, it stokes regressive stigma or resentment. 3, it demonizes the job creator. 4, it advocates for Marxist agendas. 5, it's a tool for left-wing donors to indoctrinate the youth. 6, it mitigates the honor of entrepreneurialism, risk, and job creation. And then you said that if you had a time machine to go back and have a choice between killing George Soros or Hitler, you would choose to kill Soros. Okay, so I think those are all pretty crazy, and I think that we should get into that instead of debating on whether or not sociology is or isn't a science. I think that's a totally different argument than what the original argument was supposed to be. I mean, if you want to get into that as part of this argument, then sure, but I think the primary reason why we are here is because you made some pretty outlandish claims, and then when I asked you to back them up, you gave me 3 sources, and none of the sources you gave me backed up a single one of your claims. In fact, 2 of them did the exact opposite of that, and then a third was just a link to the Open Society, which was like everything I was looking into. It was awesome. Like, they helped end apartheid. Cool. So, I mean, do you want to go one by one and then just do that? Well, start with the sociology blatantly demonizes white Americans. I think that's probably a good starting point.
Yeah. We can certainly go into that, and I'm going to get into that here in a second, and I'm going to address that claim in full with a very detailed synopsis. But before diving into that, I'm going to throw out some of the statistics that kind of support my statement prior to that to, fully frame the argument.
Sure.
So system-wide numbers. A large voter registration study of 7,243 professors in economics, history, journalism, communications, law, and psychology found 3,623 registered Democrats versus 314 Republicans, about, 5-1 overall share. So discipline ratios in that study are widely skewed. At the institutional level, Brown reached 60-1, Boston University reached 40-1, and Johns Hopkins and Rochester reached 35-1. While, that just happens to be the reality of, like, that's, just an obvious long run survey chain of data to show a far left faculty monopoly on the study. Now, why does it demonize white people? Well, a major current within sociology adjacent work, whiteness studies, critical whiteness studies, uh, explicitly treat whiteness as a location of structural advantage and a standpoint tied to privilege, and analyzes how institutions can reproduce that advantage. That framework is supposed to target structures and historical patterns, but in practice often gets communicated in moralized language. So audiences experience it as collective blame. White people is agents rather than a, narrow analytic claim about systems. There's a rhetorical and, drift problem, not a law of nature. And, that's just evident. It's just evident. White privilege is a statement, is a literally racist. You're attaching a race to a label. Just like if I attached a label to any race. If that's one of the first things I get taught in a sociology class, I would say it's pretty sound judgment to argue that's racist. It's not really that complicated by the definitions of it. If you were to say, typically the demographics of these people were white that did this, and you didn't label it as white privilege, you would have a much more sound argument for, saying that sociology doesn't, demonize white people, but it in fact does, based off that one statement. That's an easy argument. Would you like me to continue, or would you like to rebuttal that point?
I mean, did you have anything else to add to that?
Oh, I can go line by line. So the next would be it targets job creators.
Okay. That's a different thing. Then okay, we'll stick with the blatantly not demonizes white Americans. Nowhere in what you just said did you bring up anything about Americans, though. You just said white people. So are you changing your argument to it just demonizes white people? Should I take the Americans out?
It doesn't say white American privilege. It says it's white privilege in the study.
I'm reading your message. And your message was it blatantly demonizes white Americans. So I'm just trying to get clarity and make sure that I'm not misrepresenting you. Are you changing?
Yeah, it does blatantly demonize white Americans because we have one of the largest left-wing donor institutions funding the rhetoric around it.
Okay. Can you get into that specifically? Why is it demonizing white Americans and not just white people in general? If that's your argument.
Well, it is demonizing white people in general. I'm just saying it's prevalent here. The two aren't contradictory.
Oh, okay. So it demonizes all white people, but it just demonizes white Americans more. Is that your argument then?
No, I don't think it does it any more than anywhere else it's put into practice.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, why did you specify white Americans then?
Because I care about my country more than other countries, just fundamentally.
Okay, I can understand that. Okay, so your argument is basically you brought up this one study that pointed out that, and feel free to interrupt me if I'm misrepresenting you, please do, that there is a 5-to-1 ratio of people who are Democrat or identify as Democrat versus identify as Republicans. There's a 5-to-1 ratio in economics, history, journalism, and a bunch of other fields. There's a pretty extensive list that you laid out there. And because of that, combined with the fact that your sociological classes will talk about white advantages or white privileges, that means that they are assigning collective blame to white people for something, and that it is, in your words, it's just evident that is objectively racist and demonizing white people. Am I summarizing you correctly there?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So I want to get into your first point, the 5-to-1 ratio in economics, history, journalism, philosophy. I think there was another one. I can't remember what it was, but political science. That was the other one that you said. Okay. So I'm struggling trying to connect how that's relevant to saying that it's demonizing. Like, okay, so maybe you're a Republican and you don't like Democrats big bad whatever.
The 60 to
How
1
does
and the 40 to 1 to the universities, feeding into these organizations from those universities, which I highlighted later, which is your 60 to 1 with Brown
you
University,
just
40 to 1
said
with Boston University.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
those institutions feed directly into those sectors, creating the imbalance of 5 to 1.
yeah. So you originally said it was 5-1, and I get that, and that's a pretty
Not for
big thing.
sociology professors, though. That's 44 to 1 in totality.
Where'd you get the 44-1 number from, by the way? Where was that at?
Yeah, so the 44 to 1 number, let's see, I looked at InsideHired.com and the College Fix.
You mind if I look that up?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna.
Or
post
if you have
the
a
link
if you have
in
a
Sources
link, I'll
and
just
Data.
open the link.
Yeah, I'm just
go
gonna
ahead.
drop the link in Sources and Data.
Okay, let's see it.
Just drop it in the chat for this room.
Oh, or
Okay,
do
cool.
that.
Thank
Probably
you.
even better.
Appreciate that, Kyle.
I mean, I don't think the source is like a huge deal. I don't even think that the data is a huge deal. But I'll look at it and just see if it's valid or not. Let's see. Wow, history has a 35.5 to 1 ratio of liberals versus conservatives. By the way, to point out, it is saying... Okay, hold on. Yeah, okay. It's also saying that it's age skewed as well. So I guess that's a conspiracy that the elderly are controlling everything. Just kidding. That was a joke.
Not in academia, but in economics, you could definitely make that argument.
Let's see.
Jacob just asked a question. Do you mind if I respond?
Okay.
To him real quick?
Okay. So here's something. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and respond to the question.
So, Jacob, if you look at the link dropped in chat, it actually shows economics as being one of the more balanced sectors. If you look all the way to the left.
Yeah. So the problem, like, with trying to look at the study and then extrapolate what you're arguing, first off, it even says it in your link. It says, hold on, I scrolled too fast. Let's see. The authors acknowledge that being registered to vote by party isn't the same as voting for that party in every election. So, like, one thing to keep in mind is that, like, for example, for a long time, I was a registered Republican because I live in a mostly Republican state, and therefore I want to vote, for the good Republicans, although I don't really think there are any, but the better Republicans when it comes to primary elections. So it could be skewed in that way, where a lot of these universities, see right here, it says the highest is in New England. So, like, these are a lot of New England states. So you probably have a lot of people that are registered Democrats, so they can vote in the primaries because those are primarily Democrat states. It also says that a lot of these universities just don't have a lot of faculty. And so if you have a low, like, amount of staff, it means that your data is going to be easily skewed one way or another. But that all aside, I'm still struggling how you're getting the argument that there's a 5 to 1 ratio in all of these professions, or whatever ratio it might be. Yeah. Earlier you had said. Okay. I don't want another data point. I don't want another data point. I want that to be clear. We can deal with another data point later, but I want to address this data point before we move on. You're saying that there's a 5 to 1 ratio of whatever professors there are in these universities. Therefore, sociology blatantly demonizes white Americans. I'm struggling to understand how you're making that logical leap. Okay, so walk me through it.
Yeah, so perceived bias and viewpoint diversity would be one argument for it, like longitudinal and state evidence would support it. And at the end of the day, sociology in itself is the most skewed sector of all of them.
Is it on the link that you sent? It was history.
Yeah, let me pull up. You said you didn't want another data point, but you're asking for one, so give me a second.
Go ahead, sure.
I believe technically history does fall under sociology as a
Yeah,
study group.
history would be a branch of sociology. So, sure. I'll take it. We'll accept it. Okay, history is the most skewed one, but history is a part of sociology, so we'll include that in the argument. Sure. I mean, economics is also part of sociology too. So it's, anyways, I'm struggling to understand how you're making the logical leap from there's a ratio of a 5-1 of registered Democrats versus registered Republicans in this field. Therefore, this field is demonizing white people and white Americans. How are you making that leap?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I already explained that, but if you tie the word white privilege to one of the core tenets of your study, wouldn't that constitute a racist statement? And if not, why?
So the 5-1 ratio is irrelevant? Okay. I mean, whatever. We'll move past that. I think it's irrelevant too, so we'll move past it. So the whole crux of the argument is that there was a phrase.
It's not attached to that
privilege.
point, no.
What was it attached to? You're the one that brought it up. You're the
bias. The political bias is what it's attached to in the study itself. And the political bias is rooted in a
you said far
narrative
left
of demonizing white people, and I would argue that that's very vindicative, that the far left democratic organizations probably need to move towards a more productive message if they want to reach their prime voter base, and that's why Trump is a symptom, not the cause, of why we have the current administration we have. I think that that's a really strong argument, and probably one that you wouldn't be quick to disagree with.
Okay. I'm still not seeing how you're coming to the conclusion that it's demonizing white Americans, because the term white privilege exists and it came from like a sociologist.
Yeah, why is that so hard to understand? It's not complicated.
Because you're making a logical jump there that doesn't lead to it. Does that make sense? You're doing you're doing a non sequitur.
Democrats. If a bunch of Democrats are
registered Democrats are saying what?
If a bunch of, well, you said you'd accept it, but you're not accepting it. So you're going to argue how many registered Democrats are actual Democrats? Like, I mean, that seems kind of fruitless. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's not hard to argue when you go into a college classroom in sociology and you ask what their political ailments are. Most of them are probably going to say Democrat, probably in your personal experience. Would you argue against that statement based on your own personal life experience? No.
Their political ailments? Wait, what does ailments mean? Doesn't that mean like a problem? You mean their political leaning? Is that what you mean? Is that what you'd be asking?
Yeah, exactly. Generally, someone's complaining.
Yeah, generally they're going to probably lean liberal or Democrat. Yeah. I still do not understand how you're making the leap from they are leaning liberal or Democrat, or they're more registered Democrats in these fields, to make the conclusion that they're blatantly demonizing white Americans. I mean, the small business field is primarily Republican. Would it make sense for me to say, oh, small businesses blatantly demonize black Americans? I mean, that would be a ridiculous claim, but that's the logical jump that you are making here.
No, I mean, data wouldn't support that. I mean, just look at the city of Atlanta.
The data does support it. The data literally supports the fact that there are more small business owners that are Republicans, and it's like a 3 to 4 to 1 ratio. Like, but obviously that does not logically conclude. That does not logically conclude that small business blatantly demonizes black Americans. All right, because I'm not the one making that argument. I'm just pointing out that that's like the logical converse of what you're saying here. Does that make sense? Does that make sense when I say
is rooted? Like your argument is rooted in kind of my problem with sociology, and I have data to support it, and that's because only 28% of sociologists could actually provide a replication data package, data plus code, when asked, and then sociology has fewer than 10% of recent articles in leading journals using designs that allow credible causal inference, and with economics it's 70%, and with political science it's 60%. So fundamentally, generally, if you're in that study, a logical
what is any of this?
Really
what does any of this have to do with your statement that it is about blatantly demonizing white Americans? That's a
I
totally
already
different
told you
argument.
that. It's literally the statement of white privilege itself. It's a racist statement.
So
What do you not understand about it? Is it
stating
that
the word,
complicated?
just stating the word white privilege is
Yeah, if I attach an
is
ethnic
proof.
group to a connotory word, is that not racist by definition? What's your argument against that?
No, it's not. And it also has nothing to do with literally what you just said.
Why
You're
not?
jumping from. What do you mean? Why not? Why not to what? Which of the things that I said? Why
How
not
is
to?
it not the definition of racism? Do we have to argue about what the definition of racism is? If you attach an ethnic group towards a directly malicious label, isn't that racist?
Malicious? Privilege is
Malignant?
malignant.
Yeah, you're
Interesting
basically
choice.
calling a bunch of groups of people privileged and just mass exporting the label to an ethnic group of people. Wouldn't that be, by definition, racist? And if
No,
you don't think that's racist, why?
Why do I think it's not racist to say white privilege exists?
No. Like, why do you think it's not racist to call a bunch of white people privileged?
Because it's not derogatorily making any claim about their whiteness being like. I'm confused. I'm confused at your argument here because.
Hold on. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe we should take 1 second and each of us, each side define racism, just to like, because it feels like maybe we're operating on two different like understandings of what racism is.
I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory what it is. It's showing prejudice, discrimination, or like any demonization against a group based on their race. It's usually one about them being a minority or marginalized, but it doesn't always have to be. And I don't think that making a observational judgment, whether it be qualitative or quantitative, about said race automatically makes one racist. I'm just not seeing the casual link there. Maybe he can walk me through it.
The statement is racism by the definition you just provided, so that's kind of perplexing.
It's not. It's 100%. Is it showing prejudice? No. Is it discriminatory? No.
Yeah, it is.
Is it
If you
antagonizing
apply a
them? No.
generalization to an entire race, that's prejudice by definition.
No,
Are we going to argue about the definition of prejudice? If you make a generalized statement about a group of people based on their ethnic group, that's prejudice to the nth degree.
Define prejudice then.
Just the base literature.
Define prejudice.
I mean, sure. I mean, prejudice is, an opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience.
Okay, so you just disproved yourself. You just
disproved
yourself because the sociologist will use reason and actual experience to make their claims about like privilege. Okay, moving on to the next topic.
So you're justifying your prejudice.
No, I am pointing out that the person who studies sociology will use reason and experience and study to make claims about white privilege. And by the way, to be clear, not all sociologists even believe that white privilege exists. It is a debate within the sociological field on whether or not it exists. And while yes, the majority of sociologists will agree that there is some level of privilege that comes with whiteness, that does not logically follow that sociology itself is demonizing white Americans. It just does not follow. Especially because the founding fathers of sociology were white people. But anyways, moving on to the next one. I think we've gone through this one enough. There's 10 points here that you have to go through. So, victimizes minorities. Let's see this one.
If I had critical blackness studies, would that be racist?
No, there's literally critical blackness studies in sociology. Thank you. That's a thing. Moving on, it victimizes minorities.
Sure. So, one of the reasons it victimizes minorities is it applies past problems to current landscapes within the socioeconomic market we're currently in, when in fact there's institutions in place to help minorities get jobs en masse by the largest companies in America, and they have racial quotas that they need to hit to get venture capital funding, giving them a clear advantage over white Americans.
How does any of that mean that it's victimizing them? How is sociology victimizing them?
Because it applies past historical grievances to justification for reparations.
And that, so can you, okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding. When you're saying it victimizes minorities, are you saying that sociology is calling minorities victims, or is it saying, like, is it doing something that's harming them? Or both?
I believe both, because, like, let's say that I flipped the card, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. Let's say that white people were under slavery in America for the past, like 50 years ago, and it still existed, and we came out of that, and we implemented policies that allowed them to have equal opportunity within, the proper mathematical distributions in what they should be. But let's say in certain areas, maybe I didn't inherit generational wealth, and then I, was in a red line district where the politics essentially gerrymandered my entire district.
Sure.
But then on top of that, they actually subsidized programs I could access to give me, increased opportunity if I was able to, follow a certain set of behaviors to merit that. I would have every opportunity to advance the ladder. Or if, I was surrounded by all of these cultural issues, I could conform to those. And to make that distinction is a problem that should be solved by institutions rather than at the cultural source, kind of devalues a cultural study in and of itself.
How does it devalue it?
Because you're basically saying that those people aren't smart enough to solve their own problems.
Where are you reaching that conclusion? How are you reaching the conclusion that
capital into a place more so than I've already injected capital into it? Because those people,
capital. You mean like the economic term capital, like wealth and
yes.
Okay.
If I have to inject capital into a region to distribute the means of wealth so they can advance the ladder rather than the programs of merit that already exist, I'm essentially calling them incapable and then throwing them a lifeline because I believe they're incapable. It's kind of like a spoiled child syndrome that's acting up and keeps, misbehaving, and it just further perpetuates a bad problem, when in reality the issue is to discipline
minorities.
Well, not necessarily. If you were to fix
discipline what?
District,
wait, discipline what?
If you were to take that in context, how would you fix a red line district that businesses don't want to do business in?
A red line district that businesses don't want to do business in?
That has high violent crime and is racially cornered by a particular demographic that's not assimilating into cultural norms.
Probably increase the education, healthcare opportunities, job opportunities, infrastructure, mental health, help. But I'm curious, what did you mean by discipline? What did you mean by that?
You should go into those areas and arrest all the bad actors so the good people in those communities can start their own businesses and not worry about, all of the squalor going on around them.
I mean, that's already what we do, do we not? Do we not already arrest people who do violent crimes?
No, not like effectively enough.
America literally has the highest prison population per capita out of any country on earth. What are you talking about? What do you mean we're not arresting
we arrest
people
for dumb things? I mean,
yes, we also arrest people for violent crime. Like, what are you talking about? Also, what does this have to do with your argument that it is victimizing minorities? Sociology.
Police typically stay away from those districts, like, altogether. They don't target those districts. red line districts that are gerrymandered.
What
Like
do you
that
think?
don't
What do
have
you think
access to
redlined
capital,
is? What do you
that are
think redlining
impoverished.
is?
So in the city of Atlanta, you have certain regions of Atlanta that are like Section 8, right? That don't
Mm-hmm.
have access to the same capital that, like the city of Buckhead would. And in those districts, there's a high population of minorities, and a lot of them, struggle to escape those environments. It's really sad. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's the result of, years of bad faith actions. So I wouldn't even argue
So wait a
against
minute.
the
Are you telling me that
definitive, by
you're
the way.
thinking like a sociologist right now? Because that's literally
I've
exactly what a
taken
sociologist.
sociology and I've studied it.
So
I still think
you're using the sociological framework of understanding by trying
yes.
to. We throw out this whole argument then. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Well, no, I mean, the sociology framework, I said at the beginning of my argument, had very good uses in understanding cultural behaviors.
That's not what you
I
said
never
at all.
said that.
That's not what you
No,
said.
I never made an argument against that. I made the argument that it demonizes white people,
Yep.
and I also made the argument that it
That
targets
have,
job creators. I
yeah,
also
we'll get into
made the
that one.
argument it advocates Marxist agendas.
We'll get into
So
that one
to
too. I'm
cherry pick
so
that out of
excited.
there is a bit disingenuous. But we
What's
just believe
disingenuous?
two
I just
different ways of solving
pointed
the
out.
problem.
Wait. You just said that I said something disingenuous. What did I say was just disingenuous?
You said that I argued against sociology being a good study for cultural history.
No, that was not a sentence I said whatsoever. That's not a sentence that came out of my mouth. What came out of my mouth is what you're doing right now is sociological thinking. That's what I said.
Right.
How is that disingenuous?
Yeah, I'm capable of that. All right. Well, if that's what you said, I apologize and I rescind my statement.
Okay, thank you. Anyways, continue.
So I would like to move on to the next module because we can go on loops here for hours, and we've both agreed that we see two very different ways of solving the problem, and I stepped into your line of thinking.
That's fine. That's fine that we have a different line of thinking of how to solve problems, but you do realize that the very notion of like trying to solve society-wide problems or problems that are hurting a certain demographic or maybe a certain region or geographic position of the world, you realize that is sociology, right? So
yes,
that the very thing that
I'm not arguing against that.
So what you're saying is the thing that you're doing right now, which is sociology, is also blatantly demonizing white Americans and victimizing minorities.
Oh, yes. If you can't play devil's advocate, it's very hard to argue. So,
I mean, I'm not playing devil's advocate, by the way. I'm just making sure you understand that you're making like a logical inconsistency. And I'm not even trying to be rude about that.
How is that a logical inconsistency at all? Like, it's not a logical inconsistency to use a sociological framework to see what the solution to a problem is and see that it's completely different than the solutions that sociology is providing in its class studies. And often they go into debates and then they'll just label you an elitist and label you as incredulous if you believe the way to get there is malicious by their definition, if they're politically aligned. Further, kind of meriting how it demonizes white people that are conservative leaning as well, I would argue.
You don't see the logical inconsistency of like literally everything?
No, not at all. It's very logically consistent. It's a pattern of behavior.
It's logically consistent.
And I laid out the pattern of behavior.
Mm-hmm. So it's logically consistent to use sociology and think in a sociological manner while also saying that sociology itself is blatantly demonizing white Americans and victimizes minorities. Okay.
Yeah, because if you're a social scientist, you're arguably a lot smarter than a sociologist just from the way you...
a social scientist is a subcategory of sociology.
Sociologists are a subcategory of social science. You have that backwards. Political science would be a better definitive argument there.
No,
political science.
No, sociology is the umbrella category.
Well, if that's what you've been taught, you've been lied to, and I apologize.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to the next thing about it. Stoking regressive stigma and resentment.
Repeat that.
Your next claim was that sociology stokes regressive stigma of resentment.
No, my next claim was it targets job creators.
No, that was the one that came after that. I literally have the message pulled up right here. I mean, I'll link it.
Yeah, please do. I want to see what I said and if there was any more context. I mean, ultimately, I can get into why it's regressive, honestly. I mean, it's regressive because it's basically acting as if it's a sacred project. I mean, hell, Christian Smith wrote a book called The Sacred Project of Sociology that contends that sociology has become less about discovery and more about advancing progressive moral aims. I mean, there's like tons of like things you could read to support that statement, and it's been written about and all of it. But I mean, one of the most central points to that would be institutionalized social justice education. So, like, you have faculty-led initiatives, right, that frame teaching and research as tools for social justice activism. And there's actively a stigma of resistance to neoliberalism criticism, and case studies,
Wait. Wait.
support that.
Resistance to neoliberal, like you're saying that
Resistance to the criticisms of neoliberalism, because the whole public programming of sociology is to transform.
Can you
the
define
world into a more
neoliberalism for me real quick?
Yeah, so neoliberal, I would argue, is the best way to put it would be a far left-wing activist deeply rooted in identity politics, if I were to just chalk it up to a really simplified definition.
That's not what neoliberalism is whatsoever. So is Bill Clinton a neoliberal?
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
Bill Clinton's not a neoliberal at all. He's an old liberal.
He's the old liberal.
I actually have some notes.
So
here about the difference.
So if Clinton is the old liberal, what is like Harry Truman or FDR? What are they?
I believe they're old liberals. So I believe that Bill Clinton would follow their line of thinking in Obama more than like neoliberals. I put them in a completely separate category. And if you'd allow me to expand on that,
go ahead.
I believe the current neoliberal left doesn't present practical solutions to practical problems well enough to get votes in the legislature, while old liberal left did and were much more pragmatic, particularly in the Obama administration. The Obama era, the old liberal left,
no. The Obama had some of the worst midterms ever. Obama sucked. I'm sorry. I mean, I love Obama, and I think he's one of our better presidents. But in terms of like actually getting people to vote for Democrats in the House and Democrats in this, yeah, sure, he served 2 terms, but he had like bottom 5 worst midterm percentages in terms of seats lost in his midterm elections out of any president ever.
But he excelled at pragmatic legislating by compromising to major bipartisan wins.
I agree.
That's the difference, and that's the distinction that you're not seeing.
Actually, no. Biden actually was able to sign more legislation than Obama was, if you look at it like per year. Obviously, Obama was able to serve 2 terms, so he served like net more legislation than Biden did. But Biden served more legislation per year on average than any president since LBJ. actually.
Well, Biden didn't have a Republican legislature like
He
Obama
literally
did
did.
in
He
the
literally
same,
did.
not in the same proportion of distribution.
It was actually, I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure it was
know
actually
exactly what the
worse.
numbers are in that
I'm pretty sure it was actually worse for
for
Biden
Obama. Yeah.
until, I mean, it's regardless because you still just don't know what neoliberal is.
Well, it
I mean,
depends.
neoliberal. Okay, let me educate you for a moment. Like, literally, no offense, but neoliberal is a term that came out of the '80s and a little bit into the '90s. That was a way of describing the new liberals who were less in favor of certain social welfare programs that were being implemented during the time of the Great Society programs under LBJ or the New Deal Society programs under FDR, Truman, Eisenhower, JFK. They were in favor of deregulating markets. Carter famously deregulated the airlines and the alcohol industry. Clinton famously deregulated the housing and banking industry. That's what neoliberals are. They were the ones who wanted to deregulate industries. They wanted to cut taxes. They wanted to expand.
That's not neoliberal.
That is literally what
That's
neoliberal
conservative
is. Look,
liberal.
okay, share your screen.
Liberal.
Share your screen right now and Google neoliberal and pull up the first source that you can come across. Please, that makes sense to you.
Well, I'm not using
No,
the
no.
1980s definition.
So you're just making
want me to
shit
use
up.
the 1980s
You're just making shit up.
definition. Because it's a subjective term. Neoliberal literally means new liberal. I don't think liberals today are like Clinton, and that's your argument. Why would I act? Why would I conform to that?
I'm just
frame?
pointing out
It's
that you
just not
don't
true.
know what neoliberal
Like
is.
literally, I have a different definition for neoliberals than you do because I just look at it as new liberals, and new liberals are not the same as Clinton. Clinton was a much more centrist liberal, and arguably one of the worst decisions ever made was actually a bipartisan affair under his administration with a bill he signed. I mean, I personally believe you could trace back all of our modern
Where are you getting the definition? Where are you getting the definition of
Legal Act of 1933?
Sure, cool. It's awful. I agree. But where are you getting the definition of neoliberal from?
Like my perception. Like I'm not looking at Google.
Oh.
Like
Your brain.
Like new
Your brain.
liberal,
He's getting it from his
liberal.
brain. Okay.
Yeah, new liberal. It's not that hard to put together. Like the word is very simple in terms of what it means and the root meaning of the word. Yes, you're being politically correct with your statement, and I'm not being politically correct. It's only different. It would be like me.
It's not about being politically correct or politically
saying liberal
incorrect.
now versus the 1980s liberal definition or the 1800s what liberal means definition. They're all different definitions, right?
Yes,
so
and neoliberal has a very specific definition that includes
of
policy. The term neoliberal doesn't just mean new liberal. It includes the policies that they support.
Yeah, if you look at everything under a political frame, I don't.
I'm not. It's not even about it's not even just about a political frame. It's not about just a political frame. It's about just being objectively correct on what the term means. But it's fine if you want to make up your own version of what neoliberal is. That's fine. We can work with it. I'm still not seeing how sociology stokes regressive stigma of resentment.
Stokes regressive stigma of resentment. Oh, well, this is an easy argument. So, like,
go ahead.
It stokes regret, and I've already told you this. Like, if it didn't stoke regressive, stigma, arguably Trump never would have been the candidate that was in the primaries. So, I mean, if you take the current voter base, I should frame this differently. If you took the 2017 voter base at that time and like the 2020 voter base, they were disenfranchised young white men en masse that turned out for Trump, and some of which, because of the statement I made, these kids are going to college. They're hearing a liberal message they don't identify with, and it's pissing them off. So they voted for Trump as a middle finger to it. I mean, it's really easy to figure out. This isn't complicated stuff.
Okay. Even with that claim, I'm not seeing how that. Wait, in 2016, didn't college educated people, didn't they vote primarily for Hillary Clinton? So wouldn't the argument actually be against what you're saying right now? Because what you just said was that sociology stokes regressive stigma of resentment. because, and then your argument was they're going to college and they're being told all these liberal ideas, and so that's why they voted Trump. Is your argument
Partially.
that,
That's one of the components there, yeah.
Okay.
That's one of the ailments of the right now. Like, we all talk about it. Joko would probably agree with me. Any right winger you talk to would probably agree with me on that topic.
Hold on. I need to fact check this. I'm pretty sure 67% of people that are college educated voted for Hillary Clinton versus 62% of non-college educated people voted for so like the argument is quite literally backwards because
then it's still
the
regressive because Hillary Clinton had a really shit career as Secretary of Defense.
She was never Secretary of State. Yeah, but
Secretary of State, like, I mean, what she did in Benghazi was egregious. But regardless, wait.
How does this prove your claim?
I'm not a college graduate, and I took a sociology class, so the data point doesn't matter. I dropped out because of it, and I sold cars and did really well for myself until I got into technology. So, like, if you're taking college graduates, it's not representative of me. You're cherry picking statistics.
I'm not the one that brought up college educated people. You did. Your claim was sociology stokes regressive stigma
and you looked at college graduates,
and then you said that your argument as to why that is a true statement was because all these white people are going to college and they're getting told that they have white privilege, and so they voted for Trump. And then I pointed out that college educated people were more likely to vote for Hillary Clinton, and by the way, also more likely to vote for Biden, and also more likely to vote for Harris. You use that as your proof of your statement, and I am pointing out that the evidence actually shows the opposite was true, and that college educated people were like not likely to vote for Trump. And so how are you making where is your proof of your claim is basically what I'm asking. Where is your proof of your claim that sociology stokes regressive stigma of resentment? You have not proven this. Yep.
I mean,
ask your AI to answer for you.
I'm resentful of it. And I mean, you just pulled up Google, same thing. I mean, if you really want to like play petty here, but anyways,
you're
the reason it's
regressive.
Okay. Yeah, sure I am. I'm resentful about it, and I would argue a portion of people probably steered away, went to trade school, weren't going to college, that were part of the young white voter base because they were so turned off by the messages that liberal college professors were touting and how quickly they were to discriminate against people who had a different ideology base than them. And I mean, it's very similar to how philosophy engages with deism. I mean, if you're to really look at supporting evidence for that statement, so yeah, maybe the voter turnout isn't like the best indicator of that, but I think it's definitely a component of it. And I think to say otherwise is kind of
it's not
funny.
a component of it because it says the opposite of what you just said. It's not a component of it because it says the opposite. How?
Disenfranchised white young male voters.
Not educated, by the way.
Okay, why weren't they educated? Would it possibly be because a lot of them just didn't want to get liberal messaging crammed down their throat and they were sick of the shit? That's my argument. And like, you know, you're basically cherry picking college graduates that like
you were the one that brought no. You're the one that brought up that they were going to college and they were being told all these things, and that's why they voted for Trump. I merely pointed out.
I was told all these things and I didn't graduate, and then you cherry picked college graduates, so it's not even representative.
How am I cherry picking? How am I cherry picking? You're the one that brought it up.
I literally just told you why. What are you not comprehending about my statement?
Sir, you were the one that brought up that the reason why your statement is true, the proof of your statement, was that you had all these college people that went to college and then they got told all these things that they didn't like, and so they voted for Trump. All I did, this was not me trying to gotcha or anything. All I did was point out that the validity of your claim is resting on a stat that does the opposite of what you said it does.
That applies to what? College graduates?
Yes, because that was your claim.
That's the whole. No, I said people that went to college. You didn't account for dropouts. So I mean, unless you accounted for dropouts,
No. It
I
would
mean,
it
you
would
really
count for
wouldn't be
dropouts.
encompassing the entire
It
voter
would
base.
count for dropouts. When you're looking at college educated, it doesn't necessarily mean that they actually have a degree. It just means they attended college at one point or another.
Can you shoot me over this study so I can see if it says college educated or graduated?
Sure, I will do that.
Because I heard graduated.
I will do that, and then while I go look up this source, would you mind doing the next one, that it demonizes the job creator? Because I think we're pretty much done with the stoking regressive stigma and resentment. I think it stoked resentment for you. I don't think that's what it does automatically or like definitionally. But we can move on to the demonizing the job creator one, because that's a very interesting
he's
one.
not
Because
telling
you also
everyone, just before we move on, that 63 to 64% of young white men voted for Trump between, the ages of 18 to 29. That's what he's not telling you.
it's an irrelevant
anyways,
statistic. So why would I bring it up? Because
It's
we weren't talking about
completely
white
relevant,
people.
and it's completely relevant
Oh.
to the messaging that they're putting out.
Okay, did you want to address that before going to the next thing then?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me why that's a relevant stat.
It's a relevant stat because they're aware of where the messaging is coming from, and it doesn't necessarily start in colleges. It starts in high school with some of those studies. So that would be why it's valid, because you're limiting your set of data to college educated
I am
people.
not the one that brought up college education. You did.
Yeah, that just applied to me. So you would win on that the cherry pick statistic, but not in the whole encompassment of the argument itself, which was sociology in itself a catalyst for pissing off a bunch of young white voters into voting for Trump?
That wasn't your claim, by the way. Your claim was that it stokes regressive.
It was my initial claim. It was my initial claim. But let's move on.
Sure.
Targeting job creators. Well, let's go there. Intro sociology commonly teaches conflict theory, which roots in Marx. Society is groups competing over power resources, with owners and employers positioned is dominant and labor is subordinated. So once you start that lens, job creators reads like ideology, a legitimating story about capital, while entrepreneurs and employers are more likely to be analyzed as beneficiaries of unequal bargaining power, institutions, and policy. It doesn't require that doesn't require hating business owners personally, but it does prime scholarship and teaching to treat them as politically suspect, creating bias in a study that claims to be unbiased.
Is that all?
Yep.
Okay. I think we can probably, and correct me if you think I'm being incorrect here, but I think we can probably combine these next two then, the demonizing the job creator while advocating a Marxist agenda.
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
Okay. And then maybe also combine it with the tool for left-wing donors to indoctrinate the youth. I mean, it's all pretty similar. So I think we should combine it. What I find interesting. Hold on. Okay. So what I find interesting is that you're claiming that sociology demonizes the job creator, advocates for a Marxist agenda, and that it's a tool for left-wing donors to indoctrinate the youth. And when we had discussed this earlier in the chat, the first thing that you brought up as your proof was an article from the Jacobin. Do you know what the Jacobin is?
No, I honestly just threw that out and pulled it out of thin air because I was at work. If I'm being honest with you, I didn't even read it.
Yeah, I figured you didn't read it, because if you had read it, you would have known that it did not prove your statement. I read the article, and I found it a very interesting and enlightening article. By the way, the name of the article is "There's No Such Thing as Good Philanthropy." And basically, what the article was arguing was that capitalism allows rich people, even progressive rich people, to decide what's best for humanity, and that allowing that framework to exist is unjust and undemocratic.
Oh no, then that supports my argument actually, and it was paraphrased correctly.
Oh, wait. So capitalism being bad supports your argument.
Oh yeah, I'll get into
that
the
your
mechanics
argument?
of it later. Please continue. No, please continue. I know where you're going with this, but I would like to hear what else you
I
have
do
to say.
think you should read the article because you would
Oh,
realize that.
okay.
I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah,
if you want to do it
I
right now, go
read.
ahead.
I'm remembering pieces of it that I read. I didn't read the whole article, but after you said it didn't support my statement, I did read through it. There were some gaps in what I said, but when I paraphrased
And
the article in the
It
framework of my understanding, it supported what I was saying to a degree in the framework of what open society is. But I'll get to that later.
Sure. It not only did not prove your statement, it quite literally just debunks the entirety of your claim, because the Jacobin is a left-wing news site, very, very left-wing, socialist, in fact.
Yeah, they're pretty open about how their venture capitalist organizations work, and they're really good at keeping workers, and they're really good at destroying entrepreneurial ideology so they can keep those workers under their thumb.
Okay. Anyways, the article not only does not prove your claim, it quite literally makes your argument hypocritical, because while you're saying that sociology is what is demonizing the job creator,
That's arguably gaslighting in the roots of sociology, because it was funded and studied by a VC organization that also funds NGOs and policies that influence shareholder voting via venture capital and corporate policy. So yeah, you're right. It is hypocritical for the left.
It's hypocritical of you, because you're the one that's saying sociology is demonizing the job creator, while you're out here posting links from socialist magazines that are demonizing job creators.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to gaslight, fine.
It's not gaslighting. It's what you did. The receipts are all there. I can literally link the fact that you're the one that sent in this article from the Jacobin, which is meant to criticize capitalism in of itself.
Well, why would you criticize capitalism if you're the fundamental beneficiary of it with the organizations that are funding the entire study? That's kind of ironic.
Sir, that has nothing to do with my claim. That has nothing to do with my claim.
It has everything to do with it, because that was the frame of what I was arguing.
Okay.
I literally posted a link from Open Society Foundation telling you what their mission was, and their
mission is awesome, by the way. Their mission is awesome, by the way. Anyways,
okay. We'll see if you think that by the end of this.
Okay.
So, looking at job creators, like
you're the one. You're the one criticizing job creators. George Soros is a job creator, by the way.
Are you
the Jacobin article? The Jacobin article. The Jacobin article that you listed as your proof is literally demonizing job creators in this article.
Okay. Anyways, so there's documented push inside of the profession towards public sociology, the outward political engagement rather than disinterested inquiry. Pair that with evidence that many social science departments, including sociology, skew heavily left in political affiliation and registration. Affiliation and registration, not just registration, by the way. You get weaker internal adversarial testing of activist-friendly claims. So, there's a Marxist function rooted in the neoliberalism. Like, the rhetoric borrows Marx's power exploitation and domination and outputs a plug neatly into managerial institutions, HR roles, DEI bureaucracy, compliance regimes, NGO policy, because those are the channels that reward and operationalize the scholarship. In that sense, it can sound revolutionary while serving a professional managerial status quo.
Okay. And?
Literally, it's...
Wait.
It's a ruse.
Wait, can you screen share or like copy and paste this?
No.
I have to see it, bro. I have to. I'm sorry. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I have to see that last sentence. It's very crucial.
Last sentence, I didn't write that.
You just made this up?
No.
He's pulling from an AI source.
I know, but I wanted to him to see what that last sentence was, because if he does, he'll know that it's not saying what he thinks it does.
So, look, man, like, it sounds revolutionary while serving a professional managerial status quo. Like, what's
So
confusing about
what's
that?
the status quo? What's the status quo?
What do you mean?
You said it preserves the status quo. What is it? What is it preserving?
A professional managerial status quo. Like, what's there
What
to
is
do?
the status quo that it's... yes, it's a managerial status quo. What is the status quo?
Yeah, I explained that. Like, it's like the DEI bureaucracy, compliance regimes. Like,
Compliance with
like,
what?
these are literally like
Compliance
the
with what?
VC firms. Compliance with the narrative of Open Society Foundation.
Where'd you get that from?
Their website.
Where on their website are you seeing that? Because I was on their website.
I take their whole message and I interpret what I'm seeing, and the intentions are clear when you follow the money and their funding and what sociology preaches and where those revolving doors go into what firms. It's a very elitist regime. It's a very academic elitist regime, ironically, that claims to be the social arbiters of justice. How more elitist can you get than a sociology major that works at a VC firm? It doesn't really get much better than that. I mean, and you're calling me a hypocrite, and I think it's asinine. It's hilarious because you're essentially touting that the social arbiters of justice are like the greatest people in the world, and the same
When did I say that?
venture capitalist firms intertwined
When did I
with
say
them
that? When
are
did I
the
say
ones
that?
that are causing most of our housing issues.
When did I say that? When did I say that these were the greatest people on our earth?
Well, you never said they're the greatest people on earth, but you're acting like sociology is good as gold. Like, in any
I didn't say
argument
that
against
either.
it is completely infallible. Like, you fought me on every single point here without a single shred of movement because you believe in everything that this study is preaching, and you don't believe there's...
What study?
I mean, do you not believe... Let me ask you this. Do you believe there's any bias in the study of sociology?
Yeah, there's bias.
After our conversation.
Sure, there's bias.
Okay.
Anyways, moving on. What's the status quo? You said it's a managerial... What?
A professional managerial status quo.
Status quo, yeah. But what... And then the status quo is... DEI? Was that your argument? DEI, and it has to follow rules.
You're not getting the revolving door.
Hold on. So I am a little bit confused here. How is it possible that it could be both pushing radical Marxist ideology and also preserving the status quo of capitalism?
Thank you.
Because you have a venture capitalist organization that funds an elite academic study at the most prestigious colleges and universities that funnels a revolving door around political capitalist organizations, NGOs, and political donors.
Okay, so
Like,
it's
a completely self-cannibalizing argument that you're making.
I'm not the one making the argument. You're the one making the argument. I'm arguing.
So I would just say that I don't think it's intuitive or even like possible. Like, I feel like this is a contradictory thing to say that it is both.
Sociology is a literal contradiction. Is a study.
Hold on. So I mean, I just want to know, like, how can it do both? How can it both promote Marxism, which is the dismantling of the capitalist state, but also be preserving the capitalist
status quo. This feels like two different like positions that cannot be held at the same time.
Well, I mean, of course, that's the fundamental problem I'm trying to hit on the head, and I actually appreciate you asking that. So, the example I provided over and over was essentially that you have a venture capitalist firm injecting capital into the most elite institutions of our school and government, and they have a revolving door. And at the same time, those people within their message effectively discredit the ideology of bootstrapping and entrepreneurialism and demonizing it is some bad thing, and then effectively creating more workers for elite institutions. I think that's like a pretty clear messaging behind the whole study, and one of the reasons why I fundamentally loathe it with every fiber of my being.
I'm not seeing this evidence that I'm not seeing any.
Okay, I mean, do you want me to pull you up? You want me to show you the money? Like, do you want me to show you like
I don't,
every single like transaction that like supports every single one of my? Because I can do that.
I think,
no. Can I say something? That's when I'm saying that I'm not seeing the evidence. I'm not saying that I'm not seeing the evidence that philanthropists or rich billionaires are going to fund universities or whatever. And I'm not saying that I'm not seeing evidence that there's a revolving door between the government and corporations. That's not what I'm disagreeing with you on. What I'm disagreeing with you on is that I'm not seeing evidence of that being evidence that sociology definitionally is about demonizing the job creator, advocating for a Marxist agenda, or as a tool for left-wing donors to indoctrinate the youth to mitigate the honor of entrepreneurialism. I'm just not seeing that.
Okay. All right, well, I can expand on it. So, do you know, you're fully aware and you agree that Open Society Foundation is essentially the largest donor of the study. You agree on me with that statement, right?
I'm not sure. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I'm not sure. I don't think it's relevant.
Okay.
But sure.
Well, it is. It
Okay.
is. And it is relevant because ESG frameworks, when you read their website, you thought it was amazing, is a social major in your field of study. ESG frameworks bake DEI metrics into what counts as a good company. So you basically, and this is only typically prevalent within publicly
Wait, if they're saying there's such a thing as a good company, doesn't that defeat the argument that they're all about mitigating the honor of entrepreneurialism? Doesn't that defeat the argument that they're demonizing the job creator? If they're saying that there are good companies.
I mean, yeah, if you hate small business and you love the predators, and you like the people that are jacking up your home prices.
Where did you get the argument that they hate small businesses? Where'd you get that from?
Well, if you, I mean, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard aren't investing into small businesses; they're investing into big businesses. So
okay.
ESG they have anti-competitive practices typically.
Okay. What does that have to do with what I just asked you?
It's the elitism and the representation gap. Like the left-leaning professional class that designs the runs on these ESG and DEI regimes in these sociology classrooms is increasingly detached from working in middle-class norms and language, feeding the representation gap.
You're saying that
so you have a symbolic moralized... Can I finish talking, please?
Go ahead.
So symbolic moralized identity talk and mandatory trainings play well in the elite, credentialed circles, but I would say that large chunks of the country experience them as scolding and condescending layered on top of economic insecurity. The combination material precarity plus central, cultural humiliation from institutions captured by ESG, DEI norms pushes voters towards backlash politics rather than
what's that acronym?
Reform. Opposite of a healthy, cultural revolution.
What's that acronym?
Which acronym?
The ESD, whatever.
ESG, DEI.
Yeah, what is that?
It stands for environmental, social, and governance. And I really don't have a problem with the environmental. I have a problem with the social and the governance. I only have a problem with the environmental when people try to say the catalytic converters help our atmosphere, because that's a fucking joke. But the social and the governance issue or the things I have issues with, because I believe in liberal democracy, and I mean liberal
Oh, me
democracy in the
too.
1800s sense.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you look at shareholder voting, you're essentially shaping cultural norms and policies outside of the government in the privatized corporate sector, which really can be rooted in the Glass-Steagall Act. It all comes back there. When you separated the marriage of, big banks, insurance companies, and investment firms, like you repeal that, it all goes out the window. And this is a consequence of that. Arguably, the root venture capitalist of this study is running a foundation equally in practice and function and all of what it does to the Heritage Foundation, which I don't like either. And to support it is like I don't like neocons, neoliberals. I think they're both very destructive to our government, very destructive to business, and I think that they trample all over liberty and function. And they operate within legal loopholes, which you could argue racial quotas being enacted to secure more venture capital funding is a legal loophole. And it all starts in the sociology classroom. It all ties together. It's all a revolving door. It's all a loop, and it's not a conspiracy. They're posting this shit in their website. I mean, it's not really that complicated, but it is nuanced, right? So if you're really looking at it like line by line, those are my grievances. That I don't think that they should be operating to that extreme of the mechanism, and we should move towards a more, even playing field for social discourse, so people can come to a sense of greater compromise towards better solutions to better problems. I don't think that every Democrat should not talk, or else I wouldn't be talking here with you today. I don't think that every Republican should not talk, or I wouldn't be talking here today. And you probably think somewhat of the same in that frame, because you wouldn't be talking here to me today if you didn't believe conversation was a good thing fundamentally. But I truly believe that when you look at that operating mechanism, you're very quick to silence anything that the other side says, rather than listening and rather than focusing on the legitimate problems. And you can squalor over all the things, because we're all playing in the same
Your
field.
mic just cut out after you said squalor.
Sorry about that. So I have to talk low because people are sleeping in my house. So if you're looking at all of the components of where our modern politics are at, and you can argue that Newt Gingrich was the one that turned it into a blood sport, but I don't think it's just Newt Gingrich. I think it's a combination of Newt Gingrich, the Heritage Foundation, the neocons, the neoliberals, Open Society Foundation, identity politics, ESG and DEI policy, marginalizing certain people in the name of social justice, marginalizing people in the name of reducing immigration policy, or in the name of reducing like immigration to the United States. Like you can really boil it up to any of these issues. Like all of them are issues, and there's a right way to handle them. So focused, our politicians are so focused on the narrative of the media because the lobbyists have gone out of hand that it's just disgusting to me. And like to argue that one is worse than the other, I think is just incredibly weak and spineless. So my fundamental grievance with sociology is it claims it's an unbiased study that is clearly biased, making it by definition a political tool and not a science.
Okay.
And you agreed that it was biased.
Yeah. And there's a lot in what you just said, because I know that you like to just use AI. But by the way, I hope you don't mind. I'm eating hot tamales right now. So what was the sentence about arguing one is worse than the other is spineless? What is that one? Can you read that sentence to me again?
I didn't type that. That was me just talking, man. Like I have stuff pulled up here, but sometimes I'm talking about what I genuinely think, and other times I'm pulling up what I'm trying to pull up that's actually like factual and what I personally believe, because both are, important to a debate of ideology.
When you say if you say arguing like one is worse than the other, it's spineless. What are you talking about? Like obviously it's two or more things. What are the two or more things that you're talking about?
So what I'm talking about is Open Society Foundation, the Heritage Foundation, and these
To argue that
backdoor
one is
NGOs.
worse. So to argue that like, oh, if I say that the Heritage Foundation is worse than, Open Society, then I'm spineless. Is that the argument?
And equally spineless vice versa, I think. And I think that's the problem with the left and the right now, is they're not pointing the fingers at the people who actively show in policy they don't want them to win.
I mean, I can definitely say that one is worse than the other. I mean, the Open Society was crucial in ending the apartheid regime in South Africa. They were crucial in the color revolutions in Eastern Europe that led to the fall of the Berlin Wall. They helped a lot of people from countries that were being repressed, like China, helped, people that were living there during the Tiananmen Square massacre, helped them move
Well, if you're
to
okay
free
with
countries.
that being milked out of your taxpayer dollars, sure.
I don't think my taxpayer funded dollars go to the Open Society. I'm pretty sure Open Society is privately funded. Just like the Heritage Foundation is also privately funded.
How does an NGO work? Do you know how an NGO works?
A non-government organization.
You know how a
yes.
private government contract works?
Yes, I know how a private government contract
Do you
works.
not think NGOs
Our
don't
tax
get private
dollars,
government contracts?
our tax
do you not think
dollars
private
do
government
not
contracts are funded by our tax dollars?
our tax dollars do not go to the Open Society. But if they do, it's whatever. I'm fine with it. Because those are good things I just listed out.
Then you're just as okay with them going to the Heritage Foundation. if
No,
you're okay
because
with
the
funding
Heritage
tax-
Foundation is doing very different things. They are not ending apartheid regimes. They are not ending totalitarian regimes and leading to the collapse of the Berlin Wall and the Iron Curtain. They are not helping people that are from totalitarian societies immigrate to open and free countries. They're not doing those things. So yes, I can argue that one is worse than the other. I can. And it's not hypocritical at all because they're doing different things. But again, it does not prove that sociology demonizes the job creator.
But racial quotas are completely fine. Yeah, that's great. That's completely.
I didn't even say
okay
the word
with you.
racial quotas. I did not say that word whatsoever.
But you're saying
You just
that
pulled it
believe
out of
one is
nowhere.
better than the other. Well, Open Society actively pushes racial quotas via a legal loophole.
Where?
I mean, would you like me to expand on that?
Sure, I don't think it proves your actual argument. What's your actual argument is that sociology as a school of study is demonizing the job creator. It's not proving that, but you can go off on that tangent. I'm fine with it.
For small business owners, yeah. I mean, you can argue it's not demonizing the central banking system or the venture capital
central
firms.
banking,
You can definitely
the
argue
evil
it's
bankers.
stifling the spirit of small business and entrepreneurialism is a negative endeavor. Like, what would you argue that it doesn't look at entrepreneurialism as a negative endeavor in the study, hence towards Marxism? Are you a Marxist?
Bro, you did this earlier too when we were debating. It's so funny because you asked me randomly if I was a communist, even though I've made it very, very clear that I am a liberal. I support free markets. I support free trade.
So you're not a neo-Marxist liberal.
I literally just told you that it's a good thing that the Berlin Wall fell. I told you that the color revolutions are a good thing. I literally just told you multiple things about democracy, liberal capitalist democracy are good. And then you just randomly ask,
Then why aren't you looking at your
Marxist?
own foundation and what it's doing? Like you like, why am I having to provide you all the evidence of what the foundation
Dog,
you
you have
support is
not
doing?
provided
And how do
any
you not
evidence.
know?
You have not provided any evidence that actually supports the claims that you are making.
I've provided tons of evidence. Which claim
Okay.
have I not provided evidence on that you would like me to provide to you?
The evidence that you have not provided is that sociology as a school of thought demonizes the job creator and advocates a Marxist agenda. What you have sent so far is the Open Society exists, and it's just as bad as the Heritage Foundation. And the revolving door between... Shut up. I'm talking. You also said the revolving door between government agencies and NGOs is bad and evil. None of these claims are backing up your original claim that sociology is about demonizing the job creator. The only one in this voice
Marxism
chat right now,
demonizes
the
job creator.
only
How does it
one,
not?
I'm not a Marxist. Sociology is not Marxist. The only one here who is demonized
It
as
advocates
single job.
Marxist agendas, right?
No, it does not. The only one, you have not proven that. So it'd be up to
Oh.
you to prove it. The
Oh, I
only one
haven't.
in this voice
So-
chat, the only one in this voice chat who has demonized a single job creator is you. I have not said anything bad about job creators. I have not said anything bad about entrepreneurialism or job creation. You were the one that was demonizing the job creators when you were criticizing the Open Society and George Soros, who is a job creator. You were the one that was criticizing job creators when you criticized the revolving door between government and NGO agencies, which, by the way, may or may not be worth criticizing.
Well, clear stop.
But it is you who is
Clear
criticizing the
stop
job
on
creator.
everything you just said. You just said it didn't advocate for Marxist agendas. Like, how disingenuous are you? Like, how does it not advocate for Marxist agendas? Literally, they teach
If you're the one
Marxism
making
as a
the positive,
fundamental of the study and their criteria.
if
Like,
if you are the
I can
one-
provide a
if you-
slew of evidence that it advocates for Marxist
Oh,
agendas. And if
please
you're going
do.
to sit here and tell me
Please
that
do.
Marxist agendas don't target job creators, you're just like, just
I'm not saying that
slinging
Marxist.
mud.
I'm not saying Marxist or Marxism targets job creators. I am saying that sociology as a school of thought is not about demonizing job creators or advocating for a Marxist agenda. Now, you ask me, how am I going to say it doesn't? Sir, you're the one that made the positive claim. The burden of proof is on you.
Yeah, I literally told you that there's a documented push inside the profession towards public sociology and outward political engagement rather than disinterested inquiry. Pair
Okay, but
with
that does not
evidence
mean that does not
many
mean that it's
social
Marxist.
All right, well, you just said shut up while I'm talking. I'm going to tell you shut up while I'm talking. So,
Okay, guys, wait, hold on. Please keep it civil. Matt, bad on you for telling him to shut up. Please continue, cyberbully.
yes. So, if you pair the evidence with social science departments, including sociology, that they skew heavily left in a political affiliation and registration, you get weaker internal adversarial testing of activist-friendly claims. So, when you look at it, the HR rules, the DEI bureaucracy, and the compliance regimes and the NGO policies that are on their website, which I can link you to their website again if you want to read it again. Everything in there is in line with the Marxist Manifesto. And if you don't think it's in line with the Marxist Manifesto, give me some time and I will write you a whole paper on why it follows the Marxist Manifesto to a T. So you think Marxism is great. Like literally, George Soros is an active Marxist neoliberal, and you're saying you are not a Marxist neoliberal, yet you actively support this guy, so you're tripping over yourself here.
Those are two diametrically opposed things. Those are two diametrically opposed things. But continue.
Well, that's convenient.
I mean, it's just accurate. Neoliberalism is about open markets, free trade, deregulation, democratic societies. That is completely different than what Marxism and the Communist Manifesto advocates for. And by the way, I'm literally on the website right now. I can literally screen share so the entire thing, everyone here could see it. And there's nothing in here that says anything about Marxism.
Well, you obviously haven't done a lot of research in George Soros.
Okay.
I mean, if you're just looking at
you're here for the debate. You're the one here for the debate. I'm not going to let you replace your unpreparedness to just take you at your face value for what you're saying. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that.
Well, let's pull up a video.
Okay, let's pull up the video. Got to go to the old YouTube.
While we pull this up, Peanut Gallery, any questions? Jacob's had his hand up for a minute. I'm going to bring you up here. I'm going to let you know you do anything. You act foolish, Jacob, you're immediately going back to the Peanut Gallery.
I don't think you're sharing your screen. If you are, I can't see it.
I'm trying to clip a 60-minute interview with him.
All right, so I got a question for you guys. What do you think about that? The fucking
Here it is. I got it. If you'd allow me to, I don't think I can share my screen though. I don't think I have the permissions. This is a very, very, very old interview with him from 15 years ago in 2010.
Oh man, this better be a banger. It's gonna end the whole argument.
Why can't I share my screen?
I didn't.
You have to stop.
I didn't hear a single thing that Jacob said.
Neither did I.
No, I don't think it's gonna be a
Jacob.
Epoch. It's not gonna be a PragerU video. It's gonna be like some interview from like the early 2000s.
Jacob asked like half his question, but then he he had his source up. So, I mean, be prepared next time, Jacob. Come on. You've been waiting for like 20 minutes with your hand up.
Yo, why not just type the question? Why not just type it?
That too. I did offer for them to just at them at me, and I would try and whip them into the debate and not like super interrupt the flow.
Also, where's my boy Malcolm, bro? Malcolm, where you at?
Yeah, I'm really surprised Malcolm wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know why
I was really
Malcolm
hoping he would
didn't
be.
come up here. Yeah, I don't know why he hasn't shown. I also tried to get in contact with DJ, and they did not respond to me. So
It's all good. It's all
we get
good.
to have all the fun here.
Dude, he was okay.
Yeah, I think you have to stop sharing your screen for me to share my screen now.
Oh, my bad. There you go.
You're good. You're good.
Wait. Stop streaming. There it goes. Okay. Go ahead. This is going to be damning evidence. It's going to be George Soros doing...
I don't even know if it is. I don't even know if I've seen this clip, but this is...
He's going to be saying, I'm a Marxist. We must have a workers' revolution. All right, sorry. Let's see it.
I want to explore the conflict between capitalism and open society.
I came to the realization that open society is endangered by our current leadership in this country, and that is when I refocused my attention on the United States.
There is a deep-seated conflict between capitalism and open society. Karl Marx's proposition, from everybody according to their ability and to everybody according to their needs, was a very attractive idea, but the communist rulers put their own interests ahead of the interests of the people.
If what your vision that you set
Wait,
out
pause.
enacted,
Can you pause for a second?
would we have as one final result?
That's like the most normal take of all time. Like, how many times have you heard Marxism is good in ideology but not in practice? Like, it's like one of the most normal like truisms of all time.
I'm not gonna
Like,
make
it's
you watch
I don't think it's
60-minute
I don't think it's
interview
very
with him.
damning. I don't think it's very damning.
I'm not gonna get you to watch the 60 minutes interview with him, but it's.
I have watched the
That's
60.
where
by the
it
way,
is.
I watched the interview.
Distribution of wealth,
Okay.
the success of market fundamentalism.
He just
in
said
America,
pause.
which has
He
really
He just said successive markets, bro. This, by the way, this is the same guy who helped fund the collapse of the Berlin Wall. He was the same guy who helped fund the color regime or the color revolutions that helped overthrow communist regimes in Eastern Europe. His country was literally ruled by a communist dictator, and he helped overthrow it. Like he's like you're this is the Blaze, so I'm not surprised. Blaze being like one of the most unreliable news media sites there is, but like, okay, he basically said Marxism is good in ideology but not in practice. Like, that's like one of the most true, like, I disagree, but it's still one of the most like truisms of all time. Like, it's not really damning evidence. Like, yeah, continue. Let's finish the video. It's probably something else at the end.
skewed public opinion against their own interest. As I quoted the state text as a very good example. Certainly, if you eliminated that, then I think the public interest would be better served, and presumably it would lead to a a more equal distribution of wealth.
That sounds Marxist.
That sounds exactly what you were saying earlier. Go back.
British crisis.
Can you go back just a little bit? That sounds like almost. That sounds almost exactly
That's
what you were saying.
not at all what I was saying.
You weren't saying that they were funding organizations that were against their self-interest. You weren't saying anything about the revolving door between government agencies and NGOs.
Well, yeah, he doesn't care about equal distribution of wealth and function, but he acts like he does. If you look at the way that the organization operates, it's not looking to fund equal distribution of wealth. It's looking to prop up the academic elite that looks good to the left public in the revolving door, and votes for the Democratic Party to promote a Marxist agenda is the end result.
Mechanism.
What's a Marxist
I guessed
agenda?
correctly that it would.
Hold on, pause the video. Wait.
It
Pause the
probably
video.
happened a little faster.
One more time, sorry. This isn't like a critique of the video. Hold on, pause it. Oh, yeah, sorry. So, how much longer is this video? Like,
Minute 47 seconds.
Yeah, that's very short.
okay. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, let's just let the video roll all the way through before we do any more criticism, please.
Thank you.
Britain, the British Treasury Chancellor of the Exchequer raised the interest rate by 2%. I said, this is a council of despair. They are on their last legs. Therefore, one can sell the currency. It cannot be protected. And in fact, at that time, by selling additional, trying to sell additional amounts, I precipitated the event which occurred, I think, the next day or within 2 days. So, in a way, it works as in the Marxist way. A Marxist theory is that you can accelerate the course of history by anticipating it correctly. And I think he's in that particular instance, he's right. It really works that way.
The general equilibrium theory takes the initial allocation of resources as given. This rules out any consideration of social justice. Most importantly, the theory assumes that people know what their self-interest is and how best to pursue it. In reality, there is a significant gap between what people think and what the facts are.
He's so right, by the way.
Yeah, that's a fundamental difference. I mean, he's obviously Marxist. I mean, like, he loves the Marxist agenda.
I did not catch
How did
that
you
at
not?
all.
He literally was quoting the Marxist agenda. He had a Marxist professor in his background that he was incredibly endeared to. And I can pull up that if you like.
Sure, he's a capitalist, by the way. He is a job creator. So you're demonizing a job creator right now.
I don't really think he's a
Karl
job creator.
Popper?
He's a job destroyer.
Karl Popper was a liberal capitalist. He's highlighting something that literally disproves him. You cannot make this up, guys. Oh my god. Is not considered a Marxist. WAI
yeah, he
end
was
the debate.
considered a Marxist.
Okay,
but,
so now we move on to the next
AI
one.
says, but you don't believe AI is credible, which is kind of funny.
No, I don't, because AI is just slop half the time. But I have read Karl Popper. I have read The Open Society and its opponents, which is a good book by him. I really suggest you read it. Nowhere in it does he advocate for a Marxist agenda. In fact, he was very anti-Marxist. He was anti-anything that got in the way of liberal capitalist democracies. So, it's just not true. But anyways, I mean, we can just move on to the next one.
In the 60-minute interview with him, he said that professor, maybe he wasn't Marxist, but he stoked his ideology towards a more constructive fashion for him to actually rise to power. So while he wasn't Marxist, Soros basically just said he's Marxist. He basically committed like a Marxist attribution through a power mechanism and then pushed the policy. I don't think that private corporations should influence government policy fundamentally. That's the difference. I don't care if this guy
between what?
cured cancer.
Wait, what's the difference between what? Difference between what? You said that's the difference. The difference between what?
The difference between the justification for something like his organization existing, and
it's a private
similarly to the
organization.
justification for the Heritage Foundation existing, because they fund government policy, they push money towards government policy,
like lobbying.
I mean, do you not believe it? Yeah, they're heavy in lobbying NGOs.
I'm not automatically.
Heritage Foundation does the same thing.
I'm not automatically. Go ahead.
Parallel. The Heritage Foundation and Open Society function in perfect parallel within the polarized political narratives that they push.
Okay. I mean, I'm not automatically opposed to lobbying. I think there should be like regulations on it, but yeah, first they came for the corporations, bro. Okay. So I guess we can agree now that you are wrong about it advocating a Marxist agenda. You move on to the next topic.
It fundamentally advocates on a Marxist agenda and the roots of sociology. Open Society fundamentally roots for Marxism in obvious.
You say it's obvious. You say it's obvious, and then like the evidence that you have is a 2-minute clip. By the way, this is a guy who's been in the public eye, public sphere for decades. Like he's been around since like half of these clips you were pulling were from like the 90s, you know? And so like your damning evidence is a 2-minute clip pulled from The Blaze. By the way, The Blaze is like one of the most conspiratorial right-wing websites of all time. It's a 2-minute clip edited from The Blaze in which he basically says, Marxism had some good ideas, I guess, although they were bad in practice because people abuse power. Like, I'm sorry, that's just not damning evidence. That's just not. Like, there's been so many people who are not Marxist who say that. Like, it's just a truism. You know what a truism is, right? Hello? Okay, so truism is basically just like a commonly said phrase that people take for granted as being true without like actually rigorously testing the validity of the statement being true or not. Does that make sense? Like lightning never strikes twice.
That's not what I'm doing, because I'm looking at what
I'm not saying you're doing a truism. I'm saying what he said, what George Soros said in that clip that you say is damning evidence that he is a Marxist is just a truism. It's just a commonly said phrase by like millions of people around the world. It's just not damning
evidence. You could argue
at all.
they do the same thing with fascism and Trump.
Sure.
He has done fascist things. I think in the same way, and maybe that's unfair of me, and I can concede there. So like if I'm to say Trump is a fascist totalitarian. Yeah, if I'm to say Trump is a fascist totalitarian, and I'm to say George Soros is a Marxist totalitarian, both statements aren't really credulous, because yes, while you exhibit some things on the checkbox, it doesn't exhibit the whole makeup of it. But I really think both of those things in fundamental practice are illiberal, and I think it's not leaning towards, America's values in the fundamental policies that shape a liberal democracy, because you're allowing for private institutions to influence our policy making. And that's my fundamental criticism. And sociology definitely has Marxist flavor in its teachings. Like, no, it's not like the study of Marxism, but it has Marxist flavors in its teaching. Like, it definitely alludes to a lot of Marxism. They mention Karl Marx by name. And
they'll mention Karl Marx in name. They'll mention Karl Marx's name in economics classes. Does that mean economics is advocating for a Marxist agenda? They'll mention Karl Marx's name in
Like,
political
so
science.
basically, you don't think that the fundamentals of ESG and DEI.
Your mic cut out again. The fundamentals of what?
Yeah, you cut out cyber.
And in regards to the
Rip.
S and the G,
Your mic cut
Okay, so
out.
hold on. Yeah,
and
you have
even
to
the
go to
I,
back.
making
You
racial
have to go back to
quotas of
ESG
reality.
DEI. You cut out for like a solid 30 seconds. Go back to ESG and DEI. I know you can hear
Your
me. I can hear
connection's
myself
rolling
on that.
down.
Yeah, your connection is like dog
Yes.
water right
So,
now.
yeah, my connection just dropped. It went back up though. Sometimes my ping drops. I'm in the middle of the Southwest desert. Sorry about that. So, like, sociology, like, includes a lot of Marxist work. It alludes to a lot of Marxist work beyond that framing that you're providing,
What's the
because
framing? What's the framing I'm providing?
that it's just to examine the cultural aspects of it.
I didn't even say that at all. I didn't say anything about culture.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Like, I didn't say anything about that. You just said something that I did not say. You just said I said something that I did not say whatsoever.
Oh my god. So you basically said that they only look at Marxism
Do you want me to
and
just say what I
sociology.
said?
Yes, just say what you said. Jesus.
Okay. Whoa, bro. I understand that you're heated, but like, just relax. It's okay. You're doing fine. You're doing great. What I said is that they mention and allude to Marx and Marx's name and Marxist things and economics and political science and history and philosophy. Is that damning evidence that those things are all advocating for a Marxist agenda as well?
I mean, yes, in the way that it was framed for me when I took a class in it, at least. I mean, I don't know what your personal experience was like with the study, but my sociology professor in college basically painted Marxism as good as gold. And she was heavily, heavily, heavily rooted in liberal politics. So from personal experience, I'm definitely taking a biased perspective on the matter. But then when I started looking at the data, I realized there's probably a lot more instances of that. So Hanging Man might be right when he said I had a really bad
Could you
sociology professor.
could you dox your sociology professor?
Don't even do that. Just say what the university was.
It was the University of North Georgia.
Oh, that's the problem. I see the problem now.
Yeah, I wasn't going to like a very great school. I mean, I would have loved to have gone to Georgia Tech, but I was a really bad kid with really good grades, and that's sometimes problematic, especially when you're a white guy in modern recruitment with the way that works. So, not a big deal. So, I mean, I think that my problem isn't necessarily like we could sit here all day and go back and forth on like if they're going over Marxism one way here, one way there. I don't really think it's a productive argument. I'll concede on that it has elements of Marxism and it alludes to Marxism. I'm not going to rescind those two statements because they do. And they don't paint it in a light of being opposed to our systems that we built within the history of what makes America America. I would argue that social liberalism and Marxism are two very different things, but a lot of times one masquerades as the other, so they can gain the popular vote of the public eye, and keep pushing the policies they're pushing to actually behind the scenes do what they're intending to do. Kind of like, how neocons act like they're not going to give money to Israel and they do.
Okay. Okay. Did you want to just move on to the next point then?
I think we've covered everything. I think we've had a very mostly civil and healthy debate, and I'm happy with the way it went. And I definitely think you're well educated. I definitely don't think you're an idiot, but I think that you're very misguided, and you probably think the same thing about me, but
Wait, what do you think
I
I'm
would have no
misguided on?
problems. I think you're misguided on your rose-colored lens on private influence over politics and messaging, and the threats that has to impartial takes and healthy social discourse and a level playing field between different ideologies.
So like the influence from job creators, you could say.
No, I wouldn't like pick that out. I would say more like if you're going into a college classroom today in America to, for example, a school like Berkeley, pretty good example to pick out. You shouldn't have to feel like you're a target if you differ in ideology, and there should be more of a level playing field. There shouldn't be the hiring biases that there are unless there is a political structure in place that's preventative of allowing people into that sphere.
It's probably also because like 5 decades conservatives had demonized education.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't argue with that, and I think that like every bad
Don't you think that is like a
decision.
lot simpler and a lot more realistic take than some conspiracy that sociology is a tool of Marxist capitalists who want to control everyone, hate minorities, hate white people, target entrepreneurs? Like, don't you think like one is probably
No,
more of a rational take than the other?
I think that both are rational takes if you're encompassing the entirety of the issue, and probably not everyone on the aisle of it are bad actors that are on the totem pole of just being your average, college professor. I mean, I'm sure their intentions are good, but that doesn't change the reality of what it is. And I think for me to step into that realm with you, I'm probably being petty here because you didn't want to admit the symptom of cause argument that I had about this leading to disenfranchised young white men going out and voting for Trump. And that really
Because the
irritated me that
evidence,
you're trying to make that statement now and get me to argue within a reasonable frame when you couldn't.
because your reasonable frame just didn't line up with reality.
So yeah, I'm being petty.
I know, it's fine. I mean, I've been petty here too.
Well, it does. So. If you look at like 62% of 19-year-olds to 29-year-olds, that's not just a bunch of people.
Well, I mean, you had to specify that they were white.
Like that's
you
a
had to
large
specify
sum of the
you had to
total
specify that
populace
they
of
were
that
white
demographic.
male. You had to specify that part, but that's fun. I remember.
Yeah, I thought I did, but I apologize if I didn't. But like, I feel like that those studies pushed a lot of Caucasian young males out of that sphere of discourse, and I don't think that's a good thing for anyone because you want everyone of every race, color, creed, and religion having conversations, discussing things with each other. You don't want to push people out.
So
of
does the
institutions and
sociology. So
faculty.
does sociology, by the way.
It says that, but then why does it have such bias in the study? Like,
That's a very
how
good
could you
question.
say that?
That's a very good question. Why does sociology have such bias? I think it was what, a 5-to-1 ratio bias is what you pulled up earlier. Although originally your bias.
Not for sociology, it's 44-to-1 for that subset
Can you
of
link
political science alone.
Can you link where you're exactly getting that number from?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull it up again. I queried that a while ago, and I didn't query it up for this, but I really should have. I linked it earlier in sources and data within here, but
okay.
so much has been posted in. No, so much has been posted in there. It's probably going to be hard for you to pull, so I'm just gonna try and find it again.
Because the link that we looked at earlier together, it was saying like a 5-to-1 ratio.
That was just for all professors. Like, that's the crazy part. That was just for all professors. Sociology.
By the way, while you're looking that up, the biggest funder of sociology is the National Science Foundation, which is a government organization from the U.S. The largest non-government funding for sociology is the Mellon Foundation. So we must look into the Mellon Foundation. There's a Mellon Foundation conspiracy amongst us, guys.
I'm not sure why pulling this up. I got different results, so let's examine that.
Sure. Let's examine the results, and then let's examine the why.
I think were you looking at all of the public education system, or were you just looking at college campuses?
It was college campuses because that's the argument that you brought up. So that's what I looked at. The Mellon Foundation. Interesting. Let's look into this. The Mellon Foundation was an American banker, businessman, industrialist. Yo, wanna know what's crazy? While you're looking up your source, the biggest funder of sociology comes from the Andrew Mellon Foundation, outside of government, of course. Andrew Mellon was a conservative Republican who favored policies that reduced taxes and the national debt. Damn.
They're in the top 20 for Open Society Foundation, and that's just for... That's just for the United States. And I wonder what it is like in distribution to which college. That would be interesting to look at, because I'm sure it's... Okay.
The number one funder is a capitalist Republican.
I don't believe that. There's no way. Ford, Mellon, MacArthur. Let's look at this. Let's break this down. So...
Are you sharing your screen? Share your screen. Let's see.
This is interesting. This is what I just pulled up.
All right, let's see it.
And this is a very useful tool, and it's providing sources here. This is on their website.
Okay, 23 billion in endowment assets. Okay. 7.8 billion. Okay. Oh, that was just in 2021 though. Okay, so wait, this is confusing because for the Open Society it's saying about 23 billion, but it's not like giving a specific year. But then for the Ford Foundation, it's also not giving a specific year. But then when it comes to the Mellon Foundation, it's only saying specifically 2021. And then for the MacArthur Foundation, it's also going specifically 2023. So, you know, it's probably whatever.
Yeah, it's nuanced and
it's going cumulative for the top two, and then it's going specific year for the bottom two. But regardless,
it's probably because there's not a lot of coverage on it, honestly.
Okay. I hope you know who Henry Ford is. I hope you know who Henry Ford is, right? So you probably don't need to look into like the specifics of that. We know who Andrew Mellon is. Yeah, Henry Ford was a capitalist conservative, by the way.
I think Henry Ford wanted a lot of people working in his factories, and he wanted workers, not thinkers.
He wanted workers, not thinkers. That's why he's funding colleges.
Honestly, John D. Rockefeller molded our modern education system, like before Zorro said even touched it.
Wait, what's the search thing? Present an argument. What's that one? Underneath how many likes? What's the one? How many files? No, to your left in your recent. Present. What is that one? Present an argument. Let's see. What's this? Can you scroll to the top?
Oh, I was compiling JSON. Let me show you what I did here, because I'll just show you. So I pulled multiple markdown files and compacted it into one JSON file.
I don't know what it
And then it
means.
cites all of the sources. So I basically have a code here with multiple sources and .orgs, cite all of the information I've pulled up.
Can you
as
scroll
can
up to the
see here.
top? Can you scroll up to? I think you have two screens and like you're only sharing one, so I only see the search thing.
Here. So I basically compiled all of this information. It has sources. So for this argument I'm making, I've compiled a total of. Actually, let's look. I mean, you can even ask this question if you want. I'll even share this with you.
What's the neoliberal one? What's the neoliberal one?
I made an anti-sociology bot with 3,000 lines of JSON, and you've done very well. I'm actually really proud of you. You're a very smart guy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What's with no AI, by the way. So,
yeah,
and
very well educated.
What's the neoliberal? 2 links over to the one you're on right now. See where it says neoliberal? I can't read it because it's very small.
I don't have anything. I just
it says ideology over science.md, and then right next to it says neoliberal, and there's like a bunch of letters next to it. It's in between Glass-Steagall. Oh, it's stopped streaming.
I'm just gonna. This is all of this is in this. Do you see this?
What is neoliberal? Okay, hold on. Neoliberal is someone who supports neoliberalism, a political economic approach that treats competitive markets as the best. Oh my God. Yes, that's literally what I said. And tends to favor policies like privatization, deregulation, free trade. Yes, these are all things that I said that neoliberalism is.
Yeah, and I would agree in the politically correct sense that this is correct, which is what I told you. But I also think a neoliberal doesn't really follow these things like they do.
Okay.
I think this is happening. I think this is happening. In a lot of the rhetoric of our legislators in Congress, I think like a lot of them are promoting that capitalism is exploitative and that profits come from a surplus value, especially on the left side. And then that social change requires changing ownership. This is really what I have a problem. This is what I have a problem with. This is what I'm alluding to. This is what the objective is that I'm attacking. So these people that say they're for this are all pushing policies that do this.
Name them.
And then sociology, well, yeah, ESG and DEI essentially changes the ownership of jobs via racial quotas.
No, it doesn't. That's not what DEI does. That's not what DEI does. How does DEI and... Okay, so this is your problem. This is why I tell you not to use AI. Or if you are going to use AI, you need to learn how to actually make a neutral prompt. Now it's going to try to force an answer that gives you what you want.
Of course it is. But the difference is
there is no difference. Stop. Full stop. That's the problem. Sources. That's the problem. Is you're not. You're saying that sociology is the one that's biased, and sociology is the one that's doing all these problems, and yet here you are asking an AI to think for you. It literally is saying thinking because it's thinking for you.
Yeah, of course.
And you don't even know how to give it a neutral prompt. You don't even know how to give it a neutral prompt. Why would I give it a neutral
prompt when I want to get an answer to a very simple question?
Why would you listen to yourself? Listen to yourself talk. You said, why would I give it a neutral prompt when I want it to give an answer to a simple question? Here's why. Cyberbully. Here is why you would want to give it a neutral prompt instead of a bias prompt if all you want is an answer to your simple question. Because you want an actual accurate answer. If you give it a neutral prompt, it's going to do that. If you give it a bias prompt, it's going to try to artificially give you a fake answer, which is how
you're not looking at the
that is
land,
exactly how you got fooled last time when we debated about the Iranian nuclear deal, and you got fooled by fucking AI. It's because you don't know how to ask a neutral prompt. By the way, these are the types of things that you would learn if you actually knew what the fuck you were talking about. You would know how to ask neutral prompts to get neutral results.
And you could
do you know what a loaded question is? Do you know what a loaded question is?
Yes. All right, you're being incredibly condescending.
What you just gave the AI is a loaded question.
Okay, bro. So this is where it is right here. The rating agencies is pillars. If those are the pillars, indicators, goals to de facto racial quota here. That's 9, 5, and 6. Let's pull up 9, 5, and 6. If it wants to pull them out, we'll just do this.
Can you paste it in the chat?
I can't read this. It's way too small. Dude, wait, hold on. That literally... Okay.
Devil's in the details.
The devil is in the details because I'm reading this article right now.
There's 3 that it's sourced for this one question.
Okay. Let's see.
Or 1 point, so to speak.
Okay, let's read the first one from Zuckerman.com.
I would start with eeoc.gov if I was accurate.
Okay, let's read this one.
That's just me, though. I worked at GoDaddy, and usually .gov or .org generally more critically required to report under a statistical basis of
okay, so I'm reading through the eeoc.gov, and it says DEI is a broad term that is not defined by Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And then it just goes on to say, under Title VII, DEI initiatives, policies, programs, or practices may be unlawful if they involve an employer or other covered entity taking an employment action motivated in whole or in part by an employee's applications, race, sex, or another protected characteristics. But it does not define. It literally says it's not defined. So, okay, so it does not answer the question. Okay. It says when DEI can be illegal, which I agree. There are many times where it can be illegal. But
so this is just the legal coverage of it.
Okay, so let's see the growing attacks on corporate DEI programs. Okay. Okay. DEI are facing scrutiny. Let's see. DEI programs have clear benefits for business and their workforces. Okay, that one doesn't really answer the question either. Okay, so it's here. It says it is generally lawful for employers to address biases and barriers to provide a level playing field for employment and job candidates. Further, countless studies have shown the value of diversity in the workplace, higher performing teams, better bottom lines, stronger leadership. While you may need to ramp up your efforts to ensure your programs are compliant with the law, the balance of competing interests likely justifies the continuation of effective and legal DEI programs. Okay, cool. Doesn't really say anything about quotas. Let's look here. Oh my God! Here, the Zuckerman site literally says government departments have been going beyond EEOC's stern guidance. Recently, the Department of Defense purged mentions of Enola Gay, the Tuskegee Airmen, and female Marines from its website. Like, yeah, I know. The current administration is fucking
They also
evil.
purged. They also purged the code talkers too. The Navajo
Yep.
code talkers.
Yeah, I remember that. By the way, interesting factoid about myself is I have been to the Navajo Code Talkers Day in Arizona when I was in high school, and I got to meet the World War II veterans that were a part of the
No, I'm in
Navajo
southern
Code
Utah.
Talkers.
I'm right by that reservation.
Yeah, it was very cool. A very
Yeah,
eye-opening experience.
they did some really cool shit.
Yeah, I just don't think your claim is accurate. But ooh,
Let me pull up some examples of malicious actions in
there.
practice. They try
Okay,
to cover up
I
this
will
so hard,
clarify.
so
There
fucking
are
because Big Tech
instances.
did this.
There are instances where DEI can be used maliciously, or something can be used maliciously under
Oh, here we go.
DEI, but DEI itself is not what you just said it was.
Then why are there? Okay, so I'm not saying that DEI is pushing racial quotas. I'm saying that DEI metrics received secure venture capital funding from ESG policy is the reason why there is a slew of lawsuits on the issue for people doing illegal shit that's harming white males because they're not putting it because they're essentially funding bad behavior. Because the easiest thing to change when your three pillars of environmental governance is the governance part. So if I'm going to give you, and say you just sell shoes, and they're really fly shoes, you grow, you have like 50 shoe stores, and you're not turning a profit and your business is hurting, so you need to secure extra funding for your business because you're in a recession. And you realize that the VC firms rate the amount of funding you get for your business as being good or bad, whether you follow their policy agenda through environmental, social, or governance. If you put forth that policy, the easiest things for business to do is adjust the governance side, and then all you have to do is hire more people who aren't white to boost up that metric to make it look good in public, and then you can say you favor diversity, and then you secure more funding. And a ton of companies had lawsuits filed against them for doing this. Recently, Gannett just had a 2023 lawsuit where management was instructed to disregard white candidates to meet diversity goals. Starbucks had a shareholder suit over allegedly unlawful DEI policies where they would discriminate based on race and office engineer and workforce and supply chain. And Novant Health was firing to hit diversity targets. This is probably a good one to look at. So I'm probably going to look into that case a little more to provide you ample evidence to that. But it effectively, in practice, is just one component of it, but the easiest component to change. And therefore, while the intention might not be that, it's happening. And that's why you're getting a bunch of disenfranchised white people. So you're right. You know what? I can concede I might be wrong about the framing that it's effectively demonizing white people. But by making one stupid racist statement that there's such a thing as white privilege, telling a bunch of people it, and then that being framed in the policy of the academic elite, you had this happen. And it's a real thing. It's been litigated against, and real people felt this issue. And, you know, you can argue that that's being a crybaby and there's just people with white privilege, but you know what that's going to do? That's just going to make them vote for the people you don't like.
I mean, Nick Fuentes has already said he's going to vote
The left needs
Democrat in
better
2028,
arguments.
so...
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, I think I'm pretty pissed at a lot of the things Trump has done. I mean, like, I'm not, like, gonna ride Trump's dick while he's riding Netanyahu's dick. Like, I mean, touche, right? Like, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and let my political ideology usurp my moral ideology. And I would like to think that it's stronger. But at the same time, I think that the left can be very irresponsible when it comes to these kinds of topics, just like the right can when it comes to Trump. And I think that's why these things are such inflammatory topics for us to talk about, because it's so easy to muddy the facts. There's so much biased media on it. There's such shit coverage on it. It's constantly trying to change the narrative. You could argue there's an AI. That's proven. Yes, AI can certainly cater towards framed prompts. You're not wrong about that statement. I'll be the first to admit you as an AI engineer. If you put slop in, you're going to get slop out. But that's why I think it's more important for people like Johnny Harris to be out there doing what he's doing and independent journalists. And I think that's why there needs to be more, you know, programs and platforms like Ground News that are, you know, attempting to accurately source data. And that's why I showed you everything I was doing. Like, I mean, yes, I was trying to construct an argument in the frame of my narrative to best suit my argument. I wasn't trying to hide that fact because I wanted to show you that's what I was doing in good faith. And I'm going to try and provide facts and evidence to support it, but of course there's going to be mud in there. I mean, when you're sourcing a large amount of information, whether you're doing it manually from an educated stance or you're doing it from a stance with AI, I mean, the lines are blurred. For me to say that a table data set posted by anyone short of the Fred is accurate nowadays is really difficult to decipher. I mean, it's not like an easy thing to do, but we pretend it is. And then you get people that are getting all these radicalized narratives that don't really hold any credence when you start digging a little bit deeper into the situation. So it's important to dig more. I mean, I don't think that you would argue with that. I think AI can help you do it easier, but I mean, it's important not to be an echo chamber. More people talking about it, but fundamentally, that's part of my problem with sociology is when you have an open of one political polarity over the other because of the message that's being pushed. It stifles the quality of the conversation entirely, and people aren't sitting in college classrooms probably having conversations like we are right now in mass as much as they should.
That is exactly what they're doing. That is literally
What
exactly
college
what
do you go to?
Well, right now I'm actually not even in college, but that's like here. I'll share an example.
Okay. They didn't do this at my college, and I think it was awful.
Well, yeah, but you went to a university in the South, so.
I guess Georgia Tech isn't a great university. We only have the CDC and Emory in the South, so that's fucking hilarious.
Okay. I actually have a perfect example to show, because this is like you're getting mad about white privilege even being mentioned in sociology classes. This is my screen being shared? Yes. Can you see it?
Yes, it is. I can see it just fine.
This is examples of sociology classes.
In operation, when's that happening? When are you receiving privilege?
I feel like 24/7.
Can you give me a couple examples?
I mean, I've never gotten pulled over before. I'm just gonna clarify that.
Yeah, but maybe you don't speed.
I've gotten pulled over. I drive too fast.
Well, hang on. But this actually isn't really a joke here, right? So she goes through the world saying to herself, as a white person, hey, I've never gotten pulled over before, so, man, that's an example of white privilege. It's like, no, hang on a minute. White people don't fall over. Like, you know what I mean? Stand up straight sometimes, damn it. Don't just buy into the narrative.
So I feel like I wouldn't have to think twice about if I were to get pulled over based off of the stories that I hear in the news about people of color getting pulled over compared to white people getting pulled over.
Okay, stories you hear on the news.
So that's literally exactly what they do. That's literally exactly what they do in sociology.
That's a dumb argument. Like what value does that to the modern world that we live in?
How is it to be connected to a religion?
You like listening to this guy?
To be a religion.
He's got a few good lectures.
Not everybody, but many people. How is that for you?
I mean,
You don't care?
the argument that like I haven't been pulled over, so I have white privilege is just kind of a null argument altogether.
How is it a null argument?
Because I'm sure there's tons of black people out there that haven't ever gotten pulled over in their life.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. That's basically exactly what he said. He was pointing out the logical error in what you just said.
He said that? It was really quiet. I couldn't hear a lot of it. All I heard was like the argument that.
Yeah, the student. Okay, so the student made an argument when he asked. He said, "How do you experience white privilege every day in your day-to-day life?" And then the student said, "Oh, well, I've never been pulled over, so I want to clarify that." And then the professor says, "Wait, hold on a minute. This other student says that they have been pulled over and they're white. So how does that mean that that's how you're experiencing white privilege?" And then the professor asks the student to re-clarify their argument, basically. And then the student says, "Well, okay, maybe if I were to be pulled over, my circumstance, the way it gets handled, would be differently on the basis of my whiteness compared to what a person of color would experience if they were pulled over based on stories I heard in the news." And then he goes on to say, like, "Oh, you've heard it in the news, okay." And then there's like a whole thing that says link to the full discussion in the comments. But basically, I was just using that as an example of these are the types of conversations that they're having in the classroom. Maybe you didn't have these types of experience in the classroom, in your classroom, and that may or may not be a result of like the university that you chose to go to, or maybe you just had bad interactions. Maybe you like, I don't know your personal experience or your personal life, but like the things that you're claiming that these
discussion, it's a racist discussion. You're
not.
You're trying to identify partiality based on the color of someone's skin. I mean, what do you think is productive in the study of white privilege, and why are you so adamant that it's productive to talk about it?
Dude, I didn't even. You brought it up more times than I did. Like, you
seem. And in sociology,
it really isn't actually. It's not what sociology is at all, actually.
Okay, so would you say that white privilege is an unproductive study?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's unproductive. I think they're.
Okay, then why would it be productive?
It's probably productive to know how, things work when it comes to racial injustices. But yeah, it's not a core tenet of sociology.
It's productive to know how things work when it comes
to racial injustices. Yes. It's pretty productive, I'd say. But it's not a core tenet of sociology. In fact, there are many sociologists who disagree with white privilege existing. There's many sociologists who think that it just doesn't exist. That's a debate within the sociology field. That's not a debate against sociology itself. So. I think your mic cut out. Or are you just typing something? I don't know. Alright, I guess that's the end of that. Hello? Yo, Kyle, is this guy like muted or something? What's going on? Yo, Malcolm. Yo, he just left?
Yo, my bad. No, he left. Yeah, he just fucking left. Wow. You're the winner. Yo, Matt, not gonna lie, bro. You dog walked him that entire time.
Yo, are you showering right now? Thanks, by the way.
No, I've got something in the pressure cooker.
Oh, damn.
I'm gonna bring everyone up.
Yo, let's just go to the chill. Or
oh yeah, let's all move to the
Community chat?
community hangout, whatever. Yeah, community chat.
All right. Wait, how am I in two at once? Hello? Yo.
Hi.
Hey.
I just
How's it
suddenly
going?
was like, you've been invited to speak. I was like,
Oh,
what?
I
I don't want
thought
to talk.
I thought we were going into the community chat, so that's what I figured.
He came back. I guess his internet.
Sorry about
I
that.
was deafened the whole time, but I'm just gonna say this. Boo! I don't know.
True. Both sides. Both
So,
sides.
in
True.
con- in
Do we want to like
conclusion,
continue? Because I can reopen the
Oh,
thing.
I think Cyberbully wants to do like a closing statement, I guess.
yes. So, in conclusion,
Oh, welcome.
you stated that it's great to study racial injustice when under the frame of white privilege is a study. When I pulled up multiple lawsuits where quota policies harmed white men as a result of the revolving door around what those studies perpetuated in modern corporate policymaking.
No, I specifically remember saying that there are some examples of DI being used maliciously, and it's wrong when it's done in that manner, and that's not what it's meant to be used for. I very explicitly said that, so you are misquoting me once again.
Both arguments can't be true, and that's my conclusion to it.
Okay, is that your closing statement?
That is my closing statement. I am done.
All right, I'm just going to ad-lib my closing statement. My closing statement is that my opponent here made a lot of claims that were from logical leaps of faith that did not actually logically follow through with what he said. He provided some sources, and we looked at each source, and one by one, we realized that the sources that he provided said either the complete opposite of what he thought that they said, or just didn't substantiate what he was actually saying. My opponent has mischaracterized sociology as being something that just blatantly demonizes white Americans, victimizes minorities, and stokes regressive stigmas and resentment, while failing to provide any evidence that it actually does this. What sociology actually is about making the familiar unfamiliar by researching society and researching the ways things operate in a way that many people will take for granted. And my opponent also made some pretty inflammatory remarks regarding George Soros and the Open Society, and upon further inquiry into the Open Society, we realized that it is a bunch of conspiratorial nonsense that doesn't actually back up what he is saying that it does. So that is my conclusion. Thank you. All right. No more debate time. We're done with debating. Hi, friends.